Hi, everyone. I'm Ephraim Katsir, and on behalf of Sephardic Heritage International in DC, or SHIN-DC, welcome. SHIN-DC is very pleased to co-host Thanksgiving with Jewish-Tunisian Flair, with the very talented Huppit Bartov Miller, the founder of Fouda. Huppit is a cook, a food blogger, and food instructor. She's an Israeli-American mother of three with a background in education and business who has a huge passion for food, family, and tradition. Sephardim have a long history with Thanksgiving. When President George Washington initiated an official day of Thanksgiving in 1789, Shearith Israel, the Sephardic S&P community in New York, answered the call by integrating selections from Hallel, Tehillim, or Psalms of Thanksgiving, into its celebration. Over the generations, Thanksgiving has become a universal American holiday with the capacity to unite us all. And thank you for joining us today as we connect Thanksgiving and the immigrant Jewish, Tunisian, Israeli, American culinary experience in the USA. Now turn the program over to Huppit.
Thank you so much, Ephraim, and Erev Tov. Good evening, everybody. I'm Huppit Miller. I'm very happy and excited to be here and very thankful for Shin and Ephraim for initiating this lovely evening for us to cook together and talk about tradition and see how Thanksgiving gets all kinds of flares and spins. I want to introduce myself first, and I'm going to do it with a little presentation with some photos that are going to help us all understand a little bit more what I'm talking about, if it's dishes or other things. So this will be the first part. And then after we talk a little bit, we're actually going to cook tonight, which is the exciting part. And I'm very excited to go ahead and do that. So again, my name is Huppit. I grew up in Israel and my family came from Tunisia. They came from a town called Bizerte, which is in the very northern part of Tunisia. And actually after the Second World War, they had to immigrate from Tunisia to Israel. There was an invasion of Nazi Germany to Tunisia as well. And they found some part of the family moved to France at first, and the other part moved to Israel. And this is how I ended up in Israel, and now I'm here in America. So I'm going to start my presentation. I'm going to share the screen with you all. I founded the Fouda.com as food has been, and tradition especially, been a big part of my life since the very beginning, since I was a young child. And it became a profession as well, to write about food and explore food and cook food and share all this wonderful tradition through dishes and recipes. And this is why I have a personal blog, Fouda.com, a food blog. I write on other publications as well. And I do workshops now, mainly on Zoom, obviously. And when I moved to America, I first got to know Thanksgiving, which I didn't know back in Israel. And I immediately found a lot of connection to this wonderful holiday. And the holiday that brings family and tradition together resonated immediately with me. And we can see here a table that's covered with different dishes. I personally connect mainly to side dishes. I have a special love and passion for side dishes. I think they should be highlighted more than the main dishes. And it all comes from the Tunisian home we grew up in. And we will see more about that, more of the Tunisian table. So this is Tunisia, and located in North Africa, and Bizerte, which you can see at the very top of Tunisia, right there, a port city. And right above you have Italy with Sicily and Sardinia on the other side. And this whole area, besides being very popular throughout history and ancient history, because of course the port city will be very important, is also very influenced by you know, a lot of regions. So Italy has a big influence on the cuisine, and also France, which colonized Tunisia for quite a few years. My grandma has wonderful stories from living right by the beach. And here are some photos right from Bizerte. And she used to walk to the beach as a young child and get some fish for breakfast, sardines. And her mother would cook them for her. And here are some pictures of our family in Bizerte. We talked, I just slightly mentioned the Tunisian table, which is very similar to many other cultures, like Moroccan and other Sephardic cultures. It starts with a lot of small appetizers, small dishes, or slatas, as we call them. And here are some of our tables that we had in different occasions, but a lot of the meals just start like that. And this was my favorite part as a child, to just, you know, be able to sit around the table. I think this is kind of expand the whole experience of eating, just make it more social and bring, you know, all the family members around one table and encourage to just talk and share stories. And it was my favorite part to this day. And this is part and one of the reasons why I connected to Thanksgiving, which has that same vibe, the same feel of sitting around the table and, you know, sharing many dishes, but also stories and experiences. And I actually found even more than the concept of being appreciative and being thankful, as we are on Thanksgiving, the essence of this holiday. You know, as Jewish people, it's very easy to connect to that that idea of being thankful. If it's throughout our culture and religion, when we start in the morning with Modeh Ani, to our very own name, Yehudim, which means thanks as well, come from the word Todah. I founded more connections, and we can look at some of the main ingredients of Tunisian cuisine. And here we see the pumpkin, or as we call it in Tunisian, kra. And there are a lot of dishes that we make out of the pumpkin. It's kind of like the shining star of a couscous tagine, but it's also an ingredient that we make jam out of, especially for Rosh Hashanah. And here we have other ingredients that are, you know, stars at Thanksgiving, but also stars at Tunisian table. Lubia. Lubia is the green beans or beans. And we have special slatas made out of lubia, all kinds of dishes, or the butternut squash, other gourds and squashes. They're also very popular in several dishes, the carrots. And here I added some pumpkin seeds as well. But there are many, many other ingredients. And the more I thought about Thanksgiving, and when time came and I became a mom and I started celebrating Thanksgiving, I came up with different dishes that to me were Thanksgiving-like, but reminded me a lot of home. So here we have the slata lubia that I mentioned with its ingredients. It has garlic and lemon. And this is basically the salad. Here we have our Mazura salad, which is cooked carrots in cumin, and again, some garlic and lemon. And this is a wonderful jam made out of pumpkin called majunkra, and it gets a special blessing on Rosh Hashanah as part of the simanim, the part of the symbolic dishes that we eat on Rosh Hashanah. Here's another lubia salad. It also gets a special blessing on the new Jewish year, on Rosh Hashanah. And here's a dish I came up with that combined my Israeli culture, has ingredients like trina and and za'atar, and it's basically roasted beets and roasted butternut squash with these wonderful flavors. And you can make your tahina so wonderful and pink like this with your beets. And a soup, you know, a harissa, butternut squash, turmeric soup, which is very much Tunisian, colliding with Thanksgiving. So I make that as well for Thanksgiving. And this is another dish I came up with my first few years of cooking for Thanksgiving. And that's gratin, which is very, very common at my grandmother's table. Again, you see the influences, the French influences on the dishes. But here I took 3 types of potatoes, kind of symbolized with the coloring and everything, the time of the year and our holiday, and gave it also our wonderful za'atar flavors and a little bit more Israeli flavors. And that's it. I mean, this is our little opening. So I'm going to be moving to my cooking station. Let's start cooking. I wanted tonight, we're going to cook a dish that, again, kind of in a creative moment came to mind, but I have to be very thankful to one of the dishes, the Tunisian dishes called Mazura that I showed you earlier, which has carrot, cumin, lemon, and garlic. And these flavors kind of guide me to make a dish for Thanksgiving. I did share with you that I make Mazura for our Thanksgiving table, but because I make it so often and it became such a regular dish in our house, I felt, and I'm not to insult the Mazura at all, but I felt like it's not special enough maybe for our Thanksgiving. And I wanted to see if I can create a dish that will be very special for Thanksgiving, very festive and very holiday-like, and also rely on those flavors. So tonight we're gonna make glazed carrots with those carrots that the flavors that we talked about. First, I wanna show you a little bit how we make the Mazura. So I cooked carrots. You basically cook the carrots. It takes about 20 minutes or so. You start with cold water, just like you would do for any root vegetables or potatoes, and cook them right there. And I try to keep them warm for us. And then you drain the water, which I'm gonna do right now. And you move them to your cutting board. I'm gonna cut them into circles. So basically just cutting the carrots into circle. This dish of Mazura, which is a traditional Tunisian dish, it actually became such a mainstream dish in Israel. And if you go to Israel, if you go to visit, if you go to eat in many of the restaurants, it's actually a signature dish in many of the places, which is interesting. It's one of the Tunisian traditional dishes that made it in the big world of Israel. Also, we have shakshuka as it's very popular dish, and it started as a original Tunisian dish and just became very popular and took over Israel and I believe the world nowadays, which is kind of nice. So back to our carrots, I'm just cutting them into circles, and what I like to do when I make this salad is to move my carrots as soon as I cut them into a container that I can close, because as soon as we're going to put the flavors on those carrots, I want to be able to mix them gently and let them kind of sip through the carrots. And my carrots are still warm, which is always nice and great to have, because you want the flavors to be able to, the carrots to absorb the flavors nicely. So here I'm moving them to this container as soon as I'm cutting them. And you saw I prepared a little bit before I cooked them, of course, but I prepared them a little bit before we started, because our main star today is our glazed carrots. So I just wanted to show you how we make the Mazura. It's very special and it's very simple. So you can see the stages of making it, and maybe can also connect to the inspiration that made me create the other dish that we're making today, our Thanksgiving dish. But I think I'm not going to give up this Mazura, it's still going to be on our Thanksgiving table, or else my family is going to ask me, where's the Mazura? So I'll have to make sure that it's there. So now we have our cut up circles of carrots, cooked carrots in a container. And the only thing we need to do, because this dish is very simple, as I mentioned, is to add lemon. So just freshly squeezed lemon juice. I had 1/2 here, but we're going to use a lot of lemon today. So we're going to cut into some more lemons. So I'm just squeezing it directly into the carrots. This one is kind of nice. It doesn't have so many seeds. That's what I like to do, just in case, and we don't want the seeds in our salad, is that I squeeze it slightly into my hand. So if there are any seeds, they'll fall into my hand and not into my salad. So squeezing, and I usually use 1 lemon, but the exact measurements are about 1.5 tablespoons of this lemon juice into the 6-7 large carrots we have here. So it's just this half gave me about 1 tablespoon, and I'm going to cut, as I promised you, I'm going to cut into another lemon. This one, just making sure to roll your lemon against your cutting board before you cut into. It really helps to release a lot of the juice. And look at us, so lucky. Not so many seeds in this one as well.
Huppit, a question from earlier on. Sebastian wants to know how long you boiled, I guess it must be in the carrots.
Yes, so if we start with cold water, once the water comes to a boil, it's about 20 minutes. It depends on the thickness of the carrots, but you want them soft with a little bite to them. We don't want them to be completely mushy. We want them to withhold their shape when we cut them into circles. And so it's a great question. 20 minutes, or 25 if the carrots are really thick. But, and again, if you use the link, it will guide you some more into the exact timing if you're using maybe different measurements or things like that. So hopefully that answered the question. We have our lemon in our carrots. Any other questions?
Oz wants to know, how long in advance can you prep the salad?
This is a great salad that sits in the refrigerator very well. So this is a great salad to make in advance. I love eating it when it's fresh, but the beauty of this salad is that the longer it sits, it actually absorbs a lot of the flavors. So it's usually can stay for five days in the refrigerator if you keep it, just keeping the container clean, making sure you're taking it out with with a clean utensil. It's up to five days or so. I'm taking garlic clove here. I didn't make a huge amount for us here. So one garlic or two, 1 clove or 2 will be enough. The garlic trick, if you're a cook, you probably know it. You put it against your cutting board. You put your knife just flat like this, carefully, because you don't want to hurt yourself. But then you get your fist ready and just gently, or not gently, if you really, and this will release your garlic skin pretty quickly. And if it didn't, like here, it wasn't as, now it will. So, garlic casing can be a little frustrating sometimes. And this is a good trick to get it out quickly, or as quickly as possible. So that's a little trick.
Aya says hello. She is from Tunis.
Oh, wonderful. Here, I'm continuing here for our garlic. We want to mince it, but we don't want big pieces. So mincing the garlic, cutting it into very, very small pieces. We start by, slicing it very small, cutting into the slices. And then as soon as you have your small pieces against your cutting board, you can just go over with your knife. And this will create your garlic mince. Of course, every so often, scrape it off your knife. I promised 1.5 garlic or 2 cloves, so I'm going to do that. I'm going to add another clove here. And go over with your knife just a couple of times. And here you have very, very small pieces of garlic that will be, you know, more pleasant to eat because this is raw garlic. But I have to admit that the lemon really softened the spiciness of the garlic. So this is good. So as you can see, very simple ingredients. So far we have carrots, we have the lemon, we have garlic minced inside, and I'm gonna add cumin, olive oil, and salt, and this is it. This is the whole Mazura salad. And I want you to keep that in mind. Here I'm opening my cumin. It's a spice that I just absolutely love. It's used a lot in Tunisian cuisine, and you know, many of the tagine and the couscous soups and so on, but also in many of the salads. So here we probably want to have half a teaspoon for this amount of cumin. I'm kind of sprinkling it all around, but soon I'm going to show you my little trick of why I put it in this container. And a little bit of salt. Not too much. And our olive oil. This one came from Israel, so it smells really good. About a tablespoon of olive oil. You know, I always give very exact measurements, especially on my blog, because people that cook seem to really like that. But cooking is, you know, something that you want to do that fits for you and your family. So if you like more lemon, add more lemon. You like less garlic, do less garlic, or cumin, or anything else. So here's my little trick. I close this container, and it can be any container, and just gently shake it, and your salad is ready. And the longer it sits in the refrigerator, Oz, whoever was interested in that piece, it will be even yummier. So you can go ahead and taste it and right now. And I want you to keep in mind those flavors and the preparation that we just did, because we're moving to our main dish tonight, our star of our Thanksgiving, and that's our glazed, colorful carrots. So here I took the carrots and used colorful carrots that will give us a lot of the, you know, feeling of the holiday and the colors and everything. So here we have them. I started peeling a little bit before I jumped into our Zoom, but I still have a little bit more peeling that we can do together in case you are cooking with me. So basically you're, I mean, I like to choose carrots that are more or less even in size and width. It's not always easy, you know, when they pack them in a bag, but if you can do that. So here we have the purple one, which is so beautiful.
Orly wants to know, do you also add harissa to these carrots?
So sometimes I do. I have homemade harissa in my refrigerator. It's kind of like, growing up in Israel, it was kind of like our ketchup. And this is what we have in our refrigerator as well. So sometimes I do, and sometimes I don't. My kids really love this carrot salad. So they will probably won't eat as much from it if I put the harissa, just because they're used to the spice, but maybe not so much. So I personally don't, but it's a wonderful addition. And this is one of the times, just like we said, if you, you know, want to change up the recipe a little bit and add something you love. I know in Moroccan cuisine, they have very similar salad to this, and they add parsley, fresh parsley into the salad, which is a wonderful addition as well. I love parsley, and I think it can be a great addition. So here I'm cutting the tops, or the heads and the tails of our lovely carrots and my other carrots.
Stephen wants to know if you ever add any lemon zest to the mazura.
Personally, I love lemon zest. I have to tell you, I love lemon zest. I would add it to anything and everything. With the Mazura, it has such a good balance of flavors that I really feel that I don't need to add it. But give it a try. I mean, I don't know, the combination of the lemon juice with the cumin, with the garlic, it's a perfect bite. Give it a try. Maybe you'll feel like you want to add the zest. I promise you though, that we will add zest to our glazed carrots to make it a little more great. But it's, as someone who loves lemon zest, how can I say no to it? So now what I want to do to the carrots, I want to half them. And again, depends on their size, because if they're too thick, since we're not parboiling them before, I might want to quarter them if they're too thick. If they're thin, half will be enough. This guy can be a half. So I'm basically preparing the carrots for us, putting them aside. Right after, I'll cut just a few more into halves, and this one into quarters. A lot of the glazed carrots recipes call for boiling the carrots in advance. I just found when I made this dish over and over again that it doesn't really need it. And personally, I like a little bite into my carrots. So I think we're pretty safe, just because there are a few more elements as we're cooking, and the carrots spend more time in the pot, that they get to the right texture. But if you want to, I don't know if it speeds things up and you want to parboil them before, you can do that and then spend less time having them in the pot at the beginning, as we're going to do right now. So these are our carrots. I want beautiful, colorful carrots, and I want to move them a little bit aside because we have a very special topping that goes with this dish. And it's a topping, I thought we will need something crunchy and something that will enhance told you how much I love cumin flavor. So what we have here are the pumpkin seeds, and I toasted them before. You basically just put them in a small pan and over medium heat and toss them a few times. You've got to keep your eye and nose on them just so they don't burn. And when they're toasted, they kind of puff up a little bit. Instead of being very, very flat, they puff up and they get all their flavors happy. So that's what I do right before we start. And we're going to create now kind of caramelized, sugar-coated with cumin pumpkin seeds for our topping. And I want to start with that because they'll have to cool a little bit. So get a small pan, non-stick, preferable, of course, ready. And I'm gonna put the heat on medium here. I'm gonna turn the camera so you can see. I'm also gonna prepare a parchment paper with, could be a baking sheet, could be any tray that you have for when our seeds are ready with the caramel. I'm gonna place it right here. And we're gonna start with half a cup of sugar and 2 tablespoons of water. Create our caramel. So right into your pan over medium heat. Have to make sure that it's a little higher. And almost immediately, with a tablespoon, adding 2 tablespoons of water. 1, 2. I'm going to try and make sure that the camera can maybe see a little bit more what we're creating here. Get a wooden spoon or some kind of a spatula that will help you scrape. And you start mixing right away. And the secret to this, the best word I can give you about this is don't stop mixing, or continue mixing as much as possible. So here, I made the heat a little higher for us. As soon as the sugar and the water come together, we have another minute for that. We will add the pumpkin seeds. And then I'll show you what's happening. I want to tell you, my Abba, my father, used to make for us sugar-coated almonds or peanuts sometimes. And that was a very special treat as a child. Here, so you can see, once you have those big bubbles and the sugar and the water come together, we can add our pumpkin seeds. So it was the same preparation when he made the caramelized sugar-coated almonds. He did the same thing I'm doing right now. So I just added, I don't want anybody to escape. So everybody goes in. And you keep mixing over your medium. And this, my medium is high enough for a small pan like this. Could be medium to high. Just want to make sure that all the water at this point gonna evaporate, and the sugar is actually going to crystallize around our seeds. I want to show you a little bit the stage. And in the link that I send you, I made sure to put photos for every stage, so when you're making them, you know exactly where you're at. So back to our heat, we need it. And soon I'm going to show you how the sugar is going to crystallize around the seeds. And as soon as it does that, it will be time to add our cumin and a little bit of coarse salt. This actually makes a wonderful smell in your house of caramel. Cooked sugar is wonderful. But another thing I want to tell you about cooked sugar is that you have to be very careful, because it gets to very high temperatures, much higher than you can think or imagine. So make sure not to touch the sugar or our seeds while they're cooking or while they're cooling. Okay, I'm still mixing here, slowly but surely. Our kind of syrupy looking sugar is turning into something a little more thicker and starts to crystallize. It's going to turn into really almost like, you know, sand or dust. Almost back to its form where we started. So the sugar here is going to go through some stages before it caramelizes. This I could not made in advance for you guys. I wanted you to see the stages.
Someone is asking 2 tablespoons of sugar and what else?
So half a cup of sugar and 2 tablespoons of water. And our seeds are also half a cup of pumpkin seeds, toasted. So make sure that the sugar is half a cup. You will need more sugar than water. We're almost there, guys. It's a process, but it's fun, especially if you get, you know, sometimes the smell brings my kids around, because it's, today I told them not to come around. So we can keep it a little more contained, but it's a fun process to caramelize anything. And once you master it, you can start with these seeds. You can, you know, caramelize any other things that you like. At this point, I keep mixing. Something happened to us today. Not yet. It's already caramelizing on its own, and now did not turn into the crystals that I wanted to show you. So I'm just going to roll with it, and at this point I'm going to add the cumin. But the right process, which I've done so many times, is I don't understand what's happening right now. So cumin, half a teaspoon goes in, and then a quarter of a teaspoon of coarse salt. So it's usually crystallized before it turns into the caramel that it did for us here. And as soon as you have it within the caramel and you mixed in your cumin and your salt, you can turn off the heat and stir in about 10 grams of butter, which is a little less than a tablespoon. So this will help to separate. So the heat is off.
Sebastian wants to know if you could use sunflower seeds.
I'm sure you can. I might, do the process a little faster because they're so thin and so little. At this point, I'm pouring our caramel and seeds.
Janet wants to know if you can use margarine instead of butter.
You could also skip the butter stage altogether. And instead of breaking the seeds in your hands, you might want to cut into them and create more pieces instead of more like individual clusters. So you can, if you skip it all together, it will work as well. Here I want to show you how I laid our pan. So here we have it, just kind of like, and when we have the stage where they're crystallized, you might want to work a little harder on making sure they're flattened and not crystallized already. And now, while they're resting on the side and cooling, we don't want to touch them when they're so hot. Let's cook our carrots. Big pan. Mine is about 13 inches wide. We already cut our carrots. So we're actually starting with olive oil into this large pan. 4 tablespoons. We have a lot of carrots. So 4 tablespoons of oil. And a tablespoon. And you want to warm it up on medium heat. So when we putting the carrots down, they're getting a nice golden color. Here are our carrots. Make sure that your oil is coating the bottom of your pan. And it's wide enough, large enough, everything we need. Next thing we're gonna need is the garlic. So it's about 5 or maybe even 6, depends on the size of the clove that you will need. And as soon as I'll put the carrots down, we're gonna actually slice it. We don't need to mince it. We're gonna slice it into slices that can withhold the heat and will not burn for us. Let's see if my oil is warm enough. As soon as it is, I might rush it a little bit. I'm placing my carrots face down. I like them to first get the flat surface caramelized. So I'm trying my best to face them down into the pan. If it doesn't work, it's okay. Then we will mix them into the other side, but as much as possible. And we have all these wonderful colors. Face down. They're all not going to fit into the bottom, but we will have the opportunity to mix them. So do not worry. Just allow your oil to be on relatively high, medium, so it can give that good sear, good golden color to your carrots. Here I'm just adding my friends on the side. Have too many yellows. Let's balance that with some other colors. And that's good enough. I think I cut too many. Okay, we're gonna let them do their thing right here and develop some color and help them soften as well. And here I want to show you the slicing of our cloves. We're basically slicing them into, I want to say, 1/4 inch thickness. So each clove of mine is going to be sliced into 3. And here we have the flavor of the garlic from our Mazura. We're going to make this just so wonderful. I'm letting the carrots sear. This takes about 2 to 3 minutes. And then I want to move them to the other side.
We have 2 people asking for other recipes too. Natalie and Stephen ask the pumpkin jelly, and Orly is asking about the harissa.
Yeah, so I have all these recipes on my website on afuda.com, and I'm happy for the specific ones to just attach the link to the harissa and to the pumpkin, the Margarine, which is the pumpkin jam. It's so wonderful, and I encourage you to look through the site and find dishes. There's so many options and so many things that you can incorporate into your Thanksgiving meal and many other meals. Shabbat, holidays. Holidays are big fun for me, so I make sure to cook a lot of dishes and come up with, do the traditional ones, come up with new dishes for the holidays. It's a big joy for me and for the family. So a lot of it is on the website, and I make sure when I post the recipe to post pictures for every stage. So when you're cooking, you can see, okay, this is how it's supposed to look, or this is what I'm supposed to do in this stage. So now I would love to show you some of our bottom carrots. That's a really beautiful color. And I can maybe flip to one side. Still like to keep it on. I love the golden color that the carrots are getting. So right now, just our carrots in the oil. I'm just moving them around a little bit so they can get the other side, and maybe the top carrots can be at the bottom. Everybody gets an even treatment. It's very important. The other side takes about the same 3 minutes or so to get caramelized and start to get a little soft. As soon as that happens, we can add our garlic slices, and we're going to start creating the glaze for the carrots, which is mainly we're using brown sugar, which I find very Thanksgiving-y, but also it's a great combination with the cumin. It has a depth to it, the sugar and the cumin as well. So they're really complementing each other. And I just find it lovely. And then for our acid part of the glaze, we're obviously going to use the lemon. And that will complete our ingredients from the Mazura as an inspiration. I think at this point, I will add the garlic slices. When you cook this, try to make sure that your carrots, depends on the size that you have and you cut them, that they got enough heat from the bottom, enough color. The color will tell you. So they're not too hard. They have a bite, but they're not too hard. I'm gonna let this cook. I intentionally, I don't try to push the garlic too much to the bottom so it doesn't burn, but the size that we cut it, it's not gonna burn so quickly. And as soon as we add the sugar and start creating the glaze, it's already not gonna be in the danger part of burning and making our dish very bitter. So we're on the safe side here with our garlic and our carrots. Some of them got really nice color. Now it's time for us to add the brown sugar. I like dark brown sugar. Again, you get that depth of flavor. I was debating if to use Silan, which is date syrup in this dish, but it doesn't help create a very kind of thick glaze that I want to coat the carrots. So if you're a fan of Silan, I'm a fan of the flavor, you can add it to your brown sugar as an addition. And on the post, I wrote that as an option if you want that. So adding I'm gonna lower the heat just a little bit now that we're adding the sugar. And I love with brown sugar how it keeps its shape, it keeps its form. And then as soon as you put it, it's like almost like it's alive, falls apart. I wanna bring this a little closer so you guys will see what's going on in this pot right now. So the brown sugar is right here. Soon it's gonna melt. I like to obviously not keep it in one spot, but kind of make sure that it goes all around our carrots and our pot here. And while it's cooking together with my carrots and starts to melt and thicken, I'm gonna squeeze some lemon, and we're gonna need fresh lemon again. We're gonna need about a quarter of a cup of fresh lemon juice. So I'm doing it directly into my measuring cup. If I find a seed, I'll make sure to get it out.
Louise wants to know how much sugar you use.
Sugar, quarter of a cup sugar. And then we're gonna have quarter of a cup of our lemon juice. So equal parts. I'll do a little bit more just to make sure. And here I had 2 seeds falling into my juice. Fish them out. You know, if you cook them, they sometimes make your dish bitter. So I don't like to keep them in the dish. Definitely when you bite into them, they're bitter. So now that the brown sugar cooked so nicely, I'm adding our lemon. And just to make sure and measure, I'm missing just a little bit. Okay. Adding it into our carrots. And this kind of also, if you have anything at the bottom, this acid of lemon helps you deglaze everything that came from the bottom and brings all the flavors again back to the carrots. We add the lemon, and when I put an acid into a pan like this, I like to raise the heat. It really helps the liquid evaporate and your glaze to thicken. This is a good time to add our cumin. So half a teaspoon. We had half a teaspoon into our seeds, which we're going to take care of soon, and half a teaspoon here. And a good time to add our salt. And I do half a teaspoon. This is a quarter, so I'm going twice. And as you can see, now I want to bring the pan a little closer. And keep it up. We have our sauce coming together, our glaze. And actually, I wanted you to take a look at our garlic that is not in danger of burning anymore. Just going to cook and get the wonderful flavors of the glaze as well. This is basically the dish. I let it cook until the glaze becomes thick, and may take kind of putting it on high heat now because I'm trying to perhaps rush a little bit, but it takes about another 5 to 7 minutes usually if you keep it on medium and let it all cook. Your carrots are softening some more, which they need to. And while it's doing it, we can actually move to our seeds. If it became to this point, which our caramel was kind of misbehaving, then you can cut into this into pieces. And I'm going to move this into the cutting board and cut into the pieces. They have kind of bits of, but no, the other times that I made this, they actually did what they're supposed to do and broke nicely. But you know, actually you can break with your hands. I'm doing it now with my hands because it's very thin. You can use a knife, you can break it with your hands and create small pieces of those wonderful pumpkin seeds with the flavors of sugar and cumin and things, and you know, they're going to complete our dish very nicely.
Monique wants to know if the lemon has already been added to the carrots.
Yes, I did add the lemon. I do it after right after the brown sugar. I let the brown sugar, I mixed it into the carrots, and after the brown sugar gets some heat and start developing some thickness, I add the lemon as the acid to deglaze the bottom. But you know, we didn't add the lemon zest yet, which I'm doing as the very last stage for our lemon zest lovers. You also want to find a beautiful, I like a white serving dish because it has so many colors. So it's nice to, you know, see it on a white plate and a white serving plate. So here I broke quite a few pieces. I'm going to move it to the side. Oh, I'm making them my bottom. And back on the bottom here will be easier to transfer. So our carrots here are almost done. I mean, I can rush them a little bit. but our glaze is looking good and thick. I'm starting to coat our carrots nicely. I'm going to lift the pot to show you all. And then we're going to plate. Another thing, since you know our pumpkin seeds, they were green, they lost their color because now they're caramelized. If you want to add a green color, you may use some fresh parsley, and we can, you know, add that a little bit. I'm going to cut just a little bit of fresh parsley to add to the top. And this will add the nice color. When you cut parsley, I usually use flat parsley here. I could only find curly this time, but you, in any case of leaves or parsley, you want to bunch them together just like I'm doing right here, and kind of press against your cutting board. And then when they're bunched together, you just kind of slide your knife over, and that's it. And you have them all cut. If you want one more time, you can do one more time. We have our parsley ready for us to sprinkle on top for some more coloring. At this point, I'm going to bring my serving tray, and we're going to move our dish into our serving tray and see what it looks like. So here is my white serving dish, also long, so I can arrange the carrots there. I want to show you a little closer with the pan. I'm going to turn the heat off. We have the garlic also coated. This is what it's looking like. If you're cooking it in a very beautiful dish, you can serve it right in the dish as well. So that could be another option. So I'm going to arrange our carrots. I turned the heat off, of course. I'm going to arrange with different colors. Like that. And the smell is just so fantastic here. And the carrots, the texture is just right. They feel soft, but they're not mushy. They have a bite to them. So let's make sure one white goes here. We have all these beautiful colors, and I want to make sure that we have it all around. Got a yellow here, and a little orange. What's nice is that the carrots really soaked up a lot of the glaze, so they'll be very, very flavorful. You don't want to forget your garlic, which is, I find it to be one of the yummiest parts. Oops. Last but not least. And now I want to make sure I'm cleaning the edges. Sprinkling with our wonderful seeds that are caramelized right on top. And parsley. And don't forget the lemon zest. Let's get our zester. Wow, you guys, it smells amazing here. I don't know who was cooking with me, but if you're able to smell this, this is what it looks like.
Wow.
Such a beautiful dish for Thanksgiving. Really, really festive. And I feel it does a lot of justice to the holiday and the Mazura and the flavors. So this is the dish. Hopefully you will give it a try. And, let me know. You can always write to me in the comments. And you can always, in the comments on the website, and you can find all the recipes there and let me know how it works. I love keeping in touch and hearing how dishes, were successful, who ate them, who tried them, who changed something in them. And this is it. But thank you so much for cooking with me today and letting me share this recipe with you. And I wish you all a very happy Thanksgiving. And for me, I'm going to say goodbye.
Yes, thank you so much, Huppit. Stephen says, thanks so much for showing us 2 ways to dress up carrots with Bizerte origins. He says, in my experience, Tunisians love to cook for guests, and that is a bit part of Thanksgiving too. So these carrot recipes bring the right traditions. And
Wonderful.
he says, yum, looks beautiful too. I agree. And Lisa says, thank you so much. Wonderful experience cooking with you. Happy Thanksgiving. Sharona says, Maxime, beautiful dishes. Excited to try. Toda rabba. And everyone's saying happy Thanksgiving. And Huppit, I've been admiring your cooking on your website and social media for some time now. It always looks amazing. And with tonight's demo, I feel like I'm one step closer to a meal at your table. So thank you.
Absolutely. Always, always.